This is a stamp from Bangladesh, as we can see at the bottom of the stamp in English, as well as on the top of the stamp in Bengali. What immediately catches my eye is the red overprinted word service. Also, there is a postmark just clipping the top left corner. There's way too little of it to figure out any details. The image is of a group of people standing in line to use the mobile post office. Oh, I know it's a mobile post office because, well, it says it. This is a small stamp measuring 26 by 20 millimeters and has a face value of 50 paisa, the subunits of the Bangladeshi taka. Stamps with a service overprint such as this one indicate that it has been used by a department or agency of the government for official use. They're not available for purchase in post offices, but can only be used by government agencies to send official mail using these stamps. The concept of official mail goes back hundreds of years to kings and emperors sending official mail via courier, but the first time that a postage stamp indicated that it was for official use only goes back right to the very beginning, with the penny black. As this stamp is the first adhesive postage stamp issued back in 1840, some of them were issued for official use only. The regular penny blacks had a Maltese cross in each of the top corners, but the ones used for official use had the initials VR for Queen Victoria. These were used for what was known as VR official mail, and they are therefore the first official mail stamps out there. You can find stamps from some countries that have actually been designed and printed for the specific use of official mail, or as in the case of this stamp from Bangladesh, they can be overprinted with a word indicating that it is intended for official use. Words other than service that have been overprinted on stamps include official mail, official, OS for official service, OHMS for on her or his majesty's service, or something in the country's official language. Now, there's a very interesting story about the first set of stamps from Bangladesh, and again, I am impressed with how postal history continues to play a role in key global events. But before I get to that, let's quickly talk about Bangladesh. Bangladesh was part of the British Raj from 1858 to 1947. This was a time of British rule over the subcontinent which came to an end in 1947. And the area was partitioned or split into the Dominion of India and the Dominion of Pakistan, which included an east and west region. The primary reason for the partition was due to religious differences, where the Dominion of Pakistan had a Muslim majority, while the Dominion of India was largely Hindu. What were eventually known as East and West Pakistan were geographically separated by 1,000 miles with India in between, but were together a republic. Now, in 1971, East Pakistan declares its independence from the Pakistan Republic, looking to be an independent nation under the name of Bangladesh. And that brings me to the first set of stamps. These stamps are beyond fascinating to me for a number of reasons. They are considered to be the first stamps of Bangladesh, but they originally weren't real stamps, and I'll get to that. They tell the story of Bangladesh's independence, which was messy. It involved conflict and a lot of death and casualties. These stamps actually were part of the independence campaign. So let's look at these stamps to just get an understanding of what was going on in 1971. East Pakistan, as it was known, had a population of 75 million people at the time, and other than sharing the Muslim faith, they had very little in common with their Western counterpart. Ethnicity, culture and language differed, and on top of that, they were not well represented in the Pakistan Republic's government. Now, there was a nationalist movement in the country for decades, but independence became more of a reality in 1970 when a Bengali nationalist party won 98% of the votes in a Pakistan election to represent Bangladesh, meaning that there was going to be a much louder voice for independence in the Pakistan government. West Pakistan saw this as a rebellion and they wanted to squash it. So in 1971, they launched a military campaign known as Operation Searchlight, in which they targeted supporters of the rebellion. It was horrifying. It started a liberation war and a genocide that saw hundreds of thousands to possibly millions of deaths. One incident that shook the world involved an attack on a university in the city of Dhaka. This was seen as an important hub for the rebellion, and the military forces opened fire on campus, killing over 100 unarmed students and 10 professors. During the operation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who was considered as the central figure for the independent movement, was captured. Eventually, he would become known as the founding father of the Republic of Bangladesh. And while captured, independence was declared on his behalf, Bangladesh stood up to the moment and entered into a 9-month liberation war with Pakistan to gain its independence.
We have to fight, we will fight, and the victory is certainly assured.
Now, just remember, this is a high-level overview of what was going on in 1971, but I encourage you to look further into Operation Searchlight and read about the Liberation War. Now, how do these stamps get involved, besides helping me fast forward the set of events leading up to the Liberation War? Well, they were printed during the war. Bangladesh's postal system was suspended at the time with limited ability to carry mail within the country. Bridges and roadways were destroyed by military on both sides. They were designed by a philatelist and were available in Calcutta and Delhi in India, as well as in London, even though Bangladesh was not yet independent. These were issued to pretty much raise awareness. They tell the story of events and they ask for support. They weren't technically usable or available in Bangladesh. These were not real postage stamps. They're propaganda labels, Cinderellas. And if you don't know what a Cinderella is, I recommend checking out my video about Cinderella philately, but their purpose was not to send mail, it was to convey a message. The revolutionary government was trying to send a message to the outside world using stamps, and philatelists recognized this as an act of rebellion. Issuing stamps, as we have discussed before, can enforce a position of independence or claim over a land. The American Philatelist from September of 1971 has a very interesting article by David Lidman, the stamp editor for the New York Times. Well, this is during the height of the Liberation War. The article addresses these stamps, and in it he writes, "No matter the hopes, dreams of aspirations of the Bangladesh, these are not postage stamps. They're propaganda labels intended to broadcast East Pakistan's difficulties to the world. Someday, if there ever is a Bangladesh, they may be recognized as the first definitive stamps of the Bengal nation." Stamp collectors looking to contribute to the independence movement could purchase these stamps in either India or London, and they would be contributing to the cause as these stamps were supposedly fundraising for the rebel government. The war eventually came to an end in December of that year when India joined forces with Bangladesh in a week-long effort to defeat Pakistan. Bangladesh became an independent nation. And what were its first postage stamps? These propaganda labels. Cinderellas became real stamps. They were flown into the country and had Bangladesh liberated overprinted on them. There were very few of these available for the entire country to start using, but Bangladesh really wanted to get its postal system up and running as soon as possible. It's interesting that one of the first things to become operational when a country declares its sovereignty or gains its independence is the postal service. Days before Pakistan even surrendered, the rebel government, which eventually became Bangladesh's first government, was making plans on how to get the postal service up and running as soon as possible. Postal services are vital. They carry parcels as well as information throughout the country and to and from the outside world, but on the other hand, they're symbolic. When mail arrives at the door, it appears that everything has gone back to normal. All is fine, carry on. So for several years, the country used the old Pakistan stamps with Bangladesh hand-stamped over them. And these were in use until 1973, when the country's first true definitives were printed. Now, there were limited commemoratives printed in 1972 celebrating the independence and victory, but these 1973 stamps replaced the overstamped Pakistani stamps and saw the country completely move on. Since then, Bangladesh has issued beautiful stamps that either provide public service messages or display and emphasize the distinctive cultural heritage of the country. Here's a set commemorating the 100th anniversary of the death of Sir Rowland Hill, the brains behind the world's first postage stamp, the penny black. And they feature him with Bangladesh's first stamp. Because Bangladesh is a relatively young country, it's got a fairly short postal history if you start with these stamps being the first. It is therefore an achievable collection to seek out and get most of the stamps issued by Bangladesh, in comparison to the United States, for example, that's had a 110-year head start. Now, back to the stamp that was pulled from the box. It's part of a definitive set in 1983 celebrating Bangladesh's postal service and depicting scenes of post offices, railway sorting, mail boats, and in this case, a mobile post office, which does pique my curiosity. I have been able to find a number of stamps from all over the world featuring a mobile post office. I've got ones from Zambia, Poland, Hungary, Madagascar, Switzerland. Here's a set from Vietnam. Here's one from Israel. Actually, I have a cover from Israel. This one is celebrating the opening of a mobile post office, and it features this cute little red van, which is similar to the one that is on their stamps. Now, these are not just simply postal vans that are delivering mail. These are actually post offices on wheels. They provide a lot of the postal services that a regular post office could provide, including some banking services. So what's the point of putting your post office on wheels? Well, think about it. A mobile post office could be placed almost anywhere. For instance, the beach, where it might only be needed for part of the year to help support during the busier tourist season. It could be placed in an open field or remote area with limited infrastructure where the nearest post office or bank is a considerable distance away. Or it could be placed on a town or city corner, bringing services to people with limited access to transportation, or even in an open parking lot. Perhaps the post office is inaccessible or temporarily out of service due to a fire or even a natural disaster such as a hurricane or a flood. Well, it wouldn't be operational during the flood, but it'll be there once the flood is over. It ties to the point about Bangladesh needing a postal service as quickly as possible. These mobile post offices show that getting people access to a post office is an important aspect of communication. It's vital in keeping the country connected, and it's symbolic after a time of war or a natural disaster that everything is being returned to normal. I see there's a number of new subscribers, so welcome to the channel. Has anyone seen or used a mobile post office before? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.